So we lost my older brother, and it sort of rocked the foundation of our family, and we're a very close-knit family. He was also a physician and was also sort of a mentor and helped guide me in my path. And the hardest thing that I ever had to do was to go and tell my father that his oldest child passed away. From that experience and reflecting back on that, and even in the early days, it taught me that not to take anything for granted. Life is precious, and to make the most out of what we do each and every day, whether it's related to our families or our professional careers. And that was really the toughest thing that I faced in my life.
So the development of Lorundrostat, we were a really small, lean company. It was in the midst of COVID. We were remote, virtual, doing the transfer from Mitsubishi Tanabe. Had challenges with the clinical trial startup, from recruiting to getting sites set up to having the right talent and source or resources within Mineralis. And it's not atypical for a biotech, but we had it. But I think the key takeaway is just resilience, focus, just keep working the task day after day. And that's something that I've seen over my 38 years in the industry, that everybody makes a plan, plans go sideways. And resilience you hear a lot about, but it's really a critical part.
So we started Center for Breakthrough Medicines at the height of the market in 2019. And then about a year later, something happened called the pandemic. It was an interesting time for our company, dealing with supply chain constraints, talent shortages, and global need for funding. We got through that period by doing Zoom-based roadshow with our investment bankers, meeting with investors from around the world, from the comfort of my own living room, and really finding ways to have redundant supply chain for all the materials we needed to build out our 700,000 square foot facility. During that time, we had to be nimble, problem solve, and really work our network to come up with ways to supply our site and our people with the resources that they needed. If we weren't nimble during that time, I wouldn't be here today. So it's all about keeping your options open and staying in a problem-solving mode when pressure hits and times are tight.
So as Click was acquiring and emerging with talent, we realized there were three cultures of individuals that we needed to bring together. So we had an engineering team based in Philadelphia. We had an engineering team based in France, which was Talent. And then we had an engineering team based in Israel. The challenge that we saw was first, of geographic, location and time zones. And it was overcoming, cultural differences, but we came together. And it was very exciting to see the opportunity we have, really being a global company, building value for our enterprise customers.
Being an entrepreneur and starting a company is not for the faint of heart. It's difficult, as many people know. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given is a very simple piece of advice. It's, there will be good days and bad days, and the key is not to give up on the bad days. And this is something I reflect on repeatedly as we continue our journey into this startup and company growth space.
In fact, Jen and I have had the honor and privilege and opportunity to work together for the better part of the last 25 years. And as we reflect on many of the good times, but the hard times during those 25 years, what has become most relevant and impactful to how we think about the work we do today at Tendo are the recessions that we've lived through. We've lived through the dot-com bubble. We lived through the recession in 2008. And when we look at the massive market fluctuations through COVID and coming out of COVID, it's prepared us extremely well to be thoughtful around the company, being capital efficient, not getting over our skis. And we've learned over time that if you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur, as a company, we need to make sure that we can deliver the things that we promise and we reflect in what we're doing.
My previous company was a sustainable water recycling business. And so they had wastewater treatment facilities that looked like a botanical garden. You might see behind me, there's some plants here. They actually use plants in the wastewater treatment process. And there were times during that business where, we couldn't make payroll. And we had people on the team who worked sometimes for a few months without getting a paycheck. They believed so much in the mission and what we were trying to do to change the way people were treating wastewater that they stuck through it. And ultimately, we were able to convince investors and ultimately drive the company towards growth and profitability. Today, there's over 130 of these wastewater plants all over the world. And so, you know, that's my story around the difficult times that I faced in my career.